how do you measure? Well, first of all, you need to get your objectives right. Then you need to set the measurement tools, and then you need to put the outcomes together. So that's what we're trying to aim. So Konstantina and Danielle will first introduce their project. Then we're going to work in groups in the same way as you did yesterday. So based on the types of projects. And then the idea is really for you to identify for each one of those types of projects what are the key goals and measures that you can put in place. So that's going to be a brainstorm, and then at the end of that we will just ask if you can, a bit like yesterday, come up and explain what goals and measurements could be. So with that introduction,
So, I'm Konstantina from Greece, and I'm going to talk about my project, which is a play with the title Padespanios and Me, the diary of a child with type 1 diabetes. In Greek, the title seems shorter, but that's the way it is in English. These plays originate from a book with the same name and shows the culmination of feelings and the psychology of the child that is the leading actor. It is shown his mood swings after his diagnosis and his difficulty to accept it, hiding his diabetes because of fear of people's reaction. This fear is presented as a monster, which is Padespanios. This book is now in most of the elementary schools in Greece as an educational material to learn by the view of a child about diabetes, its symptoms, the treatment, the highs and lows, and how a person comes along with it in everyday life. In Greece, due to the lack of knowledge of the public in type 1, people with diabetes are discriminated, they are often being judged and targeted, so no one is open about his diabetes. This had to change through a project with a clear, strong impact on the public. The purpose was to raise awareness on diabetes, try to make the life of a person with diabetes easier, and especially the environment of a child with diabetes. The first years are the most difficult. They are usually afraid to speak about it, and often this could be very dangerous for their health. We wanted to show what's the life of a child living with diabetes, all the thoughts, the feelings, and reactions of the diagnosis. Our biggest purpose was to make the environment of a child with diabetes safer through this project. After we came up with the idea of this play, we had to think if and how we could achieve our goals, the audience we are referring to, and their interests and preferences. If we wanted to make this project successful, we had to think the best way to attract people in my town by their interest. The most important thing was to figure out a way to provide essential knowledge that can be understood so it could be transmitted. As the book had made a huge success in the elementary schools and people in Heraklion preferred to go to plays, we came up with the idea of creating a play from this book so we could raise awareness the best possible way in my town. We had to find a suitable, affordable location which could host a lot of people with a big scene and a good soundproof. We had to take permission from the government about the education purpose of the play in schools and for the play generally. We had to look for specialized contributors like a director, executive producer, a script supervisor, props master, etc., and volunteers actor for the play to make a plan for the budget and find sponsors. The paperwork until our liability to start the preparations of this play was really hard to accomplish, and as it was a low-budget production, we had to find municipality funds and big sponsorships. We were responsible to write our own script that should be suitable for children and adults. I know that probably the most difficult part of a project is find a big sponsorship. What we did to reach our money goal from sponsors, I will tell you what we did to reach our money goal from sponsors only. First, if you want a big sponsorship, you should find a sponsor who has interest in the subject of diabetes and could benefit from this event. I'm in the wrong, right? No? Okay, I don't know where I am. Here I am. I'm sorry. Okay, and then We informed them the aim of this project, the reasons why we needed them, how we could use their sponsorship, a formal report of the expenses of this project, and the change this project would make in Heraklion. They were very satisfied about all the paperwork and all the information that we gave them, so they said okay immediately. They were like 4 or 5 pharmaceutical companies. Okay. The achievements. The municipality, they provided us a big theater for free. We thought that we have to pay for the theater, but they gave it us for free. We found professional actors who wanted to do this for free by themselves. We didn't ask them. We found an amazing director who also did this for free. He was he's a parent of a boy, a little boy with diabetes, so he wanted to do that so he would be safer in his school, as he's very close to his diabetes. We found a musician to write an original music just for this play. We paid him. We found a big sponsorship, and we minimized the expenses very much. The responsibilities was that we had to organize different people from different areas and to time plan all the rehearsals and to find a free vacant place for all of these rehearsals. Although we had a prop builder and an art director and a costume designer, we had to find the props and clothes that had to be used for the play. When the event started, we invited many elementary schools. We had like a week that every day 5 elementary schools went to that theater as a trip, a school trip, and they watched the show. At the end, there was an interactive game with students in order to understand what they felt and learn. Everybody was like wanted to answer questions and wanted to play with the director that he was asking these questions. We had an open performance for public, two performances in one day. We managed to make the performance on a day that would be suited for most of the adults, like not a day with the shops opens, so they could come. At the theaters for a year, we placed the sponsor kiosks. Okay. The promotional act, so it could be successful, was the press release, the interview of the president of the Pancreatin Association, which was the help of mine to accomplish this play in a local channel. She talked about diabetes too in these interviews, the ready release and posters. Okay. The critical reception was that the play was very funny, moving, and educational at the same time. They shared their experience and identified themselves with the leading actor, the children with diabetes. The interactive game, it was a great success. All the kids showed interest in diabetes. And after the play, they will come, and when a kid said that I have diabetes, they would all come to go to him and ask him questions. The parents empathized with the child's parents. They were all crying, like very much. It was a positive. All the press reviews was very positive. They said that it was something that Heraklion didn't see before, the great way to show what diabetes is and the psychological part of the whole family, just to know about it. And the outcome report. The play came as an alternative complementary strategy to fill this knowledge gap in diabetes. It was a bigger success than we have imagined. And everybody wanted to learn more, so they would ask us to go to the TV channels and talk about diabetes and speak about it. The reflection on the condition of diabetes in Crete had changed really much since then. People engage with diabetes, share their story, and talk about it. Like that, we never seen this before. The Heraklion is like a village. Nobody talks about it. We have a communication with the doctor, and when the child is diagnosed, we go to the hospital and talk about it like a psychological support, because it is not provided. And they are afraid to say that, okay, I will come to your meetings with the associations, but now we have like 500 members, which is wow. And it inspired and influenced the local community to reopening the discussion about diabetes. These are the props. This was the scene. Oh, sorry. This was the open ceremony. No, the open, anyway. And this was the leading actors. The green guys are the Padespanios, with the middle guy with the straps was the leading actor. And when he was afraid, the Padespanios was bigger, and he was like hunting him. But then when he started to talk about it and he went to camp, he smalled, and it was like a little guy that they were playing, and he accompanied everywhere, the leading actor. That's that.
Okay. I'm just going to talk a little bit about outcome reports and what you need to think about when you may be doing them. Okay, so first question is, why are outcome reports important? So not only are they important to show the impact and to measure the YLD program as a whole, but it also helps with getting support from your member association. And then the biggest reason I think that reporting is important is to get sponsorship and funding and be able to have something like to show what you've done to your sponsors. So a few things to think about of how do we measure the impact of what you're doing. So I think, first of all, setting goals and having quantifiable goals is really, really big. So if that may be, your goals might be you want to have access to X number of people, or that if people go to your programs, their A1C may improve, or their self-esteem may improve by by a certain amount. So just understanding what your project is and how you can have measurable goals in your project is pretty important. And then another side of it would be if success stories might be relevant in your reports and in your projects to show the social side of people going through your programs or your project or whatever that may be. And then how do we capture that information would be through surveys. So you can do a survey before your project to a survey after your project for the group that it is impacting, or just do post project surveys or whatever that may be. So you can show your impact either year over year. So say you run a camp, you say, okay, we had 100 people were impacted last year, now we have 200 people, and out of the people that went to our programs, last year we had 80% of people now check their sugars more than twice a day, and this year we now have 90% of those people. So our programs are improving, so maybe you should help support us, or whatever that may be. And then I think the biggest and the most important aspect of reporting is who's your audience. So are your reports going to funders? And if they are going to funders, what is their benefit? So if you had a pharmaceutical company support you, why would it be important for them to support you? So in my relevance in camping, we have a lot of corporate donors, and there's a reason why they donate to us, but in the pharmaceutical world, it's so that they have more exposure to to market their product potentially, or whatever that may be. So we have to show our goals and what we do in the lens of our funders and how it's going to benefit them, to say it more bluntly. So I'm just going to go through a few numbers and things from some reports from camp to show why gathering certain information is important. So just on so our DCAMPS programs impacts 2,500 campers, kids with type 1 annually. So that number may be important if we're trying to talk to funders about the reach of what it might be. So for example, this summer we had LifeScan sponsor all of our meters and all of our strips for the entire summer. So that's about 60,000 strips that they donated. But not only did they donate to us by the product itself, which was financially helpful for us, but we also charged them money to donate to us, because they then have 2,500 kids use their meter and their product for a week, and they may go home and purchase it. So that's how we leverage getting bigger corporate donations. And then another number that might be useful, like in our programs, is that we have 650 staff and volunteers for our programs for the 2 months in the summer, and that is useful. That most of those people are healthcare professionals, so it's another way to leverage some of the pharmaceutical companies to show you can teach your product and learn about your product from the healthcare perspective, so then they can then work with that product in their clinics. And I talked about the strips and lancets. So if you remember yesterday, I had those 3 reasons of why diabetes camp is important. And so in our surveys, we try and capture those goals in questions, so we can get results like this. So as we said, camp gives kids with type 1 that sense of community. From some of our survey questions, we've analyzed that 84% of our campers build self-esteem in relation to living with type 1 diabetes at camp, and 83% of campers formed a bond with others living with type 1 diabetes. We've also done some surveys about how they feel about their diabetes before and after camp. So when we're going to get supporters and showing why our programs are important, we have those numbers to back us up. So it's not just, a photo saying camp was great and everyone was smiling and it was a wonderful experience. We're showing the social aspects of camp through numbers. And then our second goal, participate in outdoor activities that promote self-esteem and personal growth. So 95% of campers gain new skills and or knowledge. 93% of respondents of the survey felt that camp staff were positive role models for their camper. So just showing that again. And then our last goal is teach, promote, and encourage independent self-management of diabetes. So 87% felt their campers' experience at camp help give them the tools they needed to live day to day with diabetes. So I think that it's just something to take away, is to understand if your program is camp specifically, like why is it important and how you can measure why it's important. So I'm not going to get to this because I think we have another activity, but if you have any questions about the survey questions or what they look like, feel free to ask me, because I have loads of questions in those surveys that help get to those numbers.
Thank you very much. So basically now it's time for a brainstorm. So if you could please go and form the same groups as you did yesterday and use the same setup and the same flip charts and all the rest. And at the end of the session, we will ask for a couple of groups to...
Can I recommend that we use the same papers perhaps as before, so thanks too much?
Yeah, just do, and basically...
Now we use the same tables that we used yesterday, so that people don't need to talk to each other.
Exactly. And I think what we would like you to think about is, what is your overall objective in conducting your project? Okay, so if you just, when you set up the table, what we would like you to think about is what are your overall objectives so that you can see how you can measure the impact of what you're trying to do. So these are just to help you to think about the goals and the way that you measure them. Okay, so up to you.
Educate increase education
Who takes the decision?
Yeah, we can define it in the.
What I think is that there is not teamwork. For example, I will try to focus myself. In this case, I'm thinking about preparing physical materials and something that I can present. Ask, for example, who takes decisions? Are you okay too? And that's how I can focus, for example, in a book. In a book and a guide that actually mix theory knowledge with and that, for example, after that I want to highlight the last survey to prove that I've got success is that the family realized okay, this was your first survey. Then the second one. That's the last one. That evaluates your change back in the time.
Brainstorm the ideas we have. Because we don't have to talk.
I think because we don't have I think that's really why we need to list like some of what help could mention example if some of us have a very
Perhaps this would really be want to keep.
but what's really important with the topic is
Therefore, the point is to take
Actually, that's the way that I can prove my success with the evolution of the teamwork in family and make them reach the answer. I'm not giving the answer. From the beginning, I won't tell them, for example, I want you to work as a team. I want them to realize that they must work as a team. Because I never know the answer that they are going to give me. But they say, we must, in education, we don't teach, we guide. That's the...
what's your project? If this one is sponsor and I ask you, what's your project? How can you say it?
Increase awareness of raise awareness and help people understand the difference. We started in 2 yeah, time link as the time. It's T on the smart board. You have to think about it. As an example. Yeah,
Another one.
I mean, is any objective different than this?
What?
Yeah, that's such a point because we have this much time range, so maybe we can select that three most important of things. That more realistic. I think this one is better.
You don't know how much they receive that. No, I'm saying that. Okay, measurable, like. Well, something like that, yeah, in the beginning and the end.
What is the thing that you would need to measure? It's not that it's that's like a survey you can do. We wanted to know we can just get that evaluation criteria. We will have good healthcare system if we don't.
Because the activity, activities is for trying to complete the so what I asked them that so that nobody would actually survey, I expect that 87% to be able to say, but I know what I really know. I haven't thought of why I don't want to take the subject I already have. I don't make any sense. So I think go in and
It can be changed like the word discrimination. No restraint, but that's eradicating something.
yeah, no, let's hear what he has to say.
You know,
No discrimination. What do you, I believe no discrimination. Discrimination happens with another point that it won't be discrimination. How can we measure that? First, we can make a kid being self-confident, like what we are doing, or telling the training experiences. This little mistake that we should be very like this. Where I expect we, like we institutions, educate. Yes, we let them the truth like, to a kid that was not that is not necessary that I go to I am self-confident. I can